When a person is fighting for a relationship that they really value and they feel like they're losing, they're experiencing a certain level of grief. And that grief shows up in so many different ways. It may show up as fighting. It may show up as fearing. It may show up as running. It may show up as avoiding. It may show up as withdrawal. It may show up as having to have the last word. It may show up as finding faults and checking the facts, but still they're fighting for that relationship. See, the amazing thing about grief is that it's not limited to relationships with people that are no longer on the earth plane, those who physically died. No, we grieve relationships all the time. And one of the most painful observations I experience in my work as a coach, as a family support specialist, as an educator, is when parents are grieving a relationship with their children and the child lives in the house with them. If you're one of those parents and you feel like, wow, I'm losing my child, I don't know what to do, I just want you to tap your knee or tap your heart, because this is not a easy topic, and I want to offer you something that could change the trajectory of your relationship with yourself and with your child, and ultimately with the Most High. When people are fighting for a relationship, they often make the mistake of blaming that person. You're the reason why I feel this way. You're the reason why I do what I do. You're the reason why I am who I am. They're still grieving. They just don't know what phase and stage of grief they're in, but they are hurting because it signals to the survival brain that there is a loss. And the thinking brain is like, you got to work harder. You can't lose this. Now, the thinking brain is not always as smart as we want it to be. Yes, and we can listen to all the podcasts and all the videos and read all the books and all that stuff, but sometimes that's not enough. Sometimes we overload the thinking brain and then we feel like we don't know what to do. We can have every therapist, every counselor, every pastor, every imam. We can speak to these people and look for an answer. But sometimes it's more than just talking. Sometimes we just have to observe the survival part of the brain. Now, I want to share with you some tools, and I'm speaking from a book that I'm reading, Widen the Window by Elizabeth Stanley, PhD, a wonderful, wonderful book. She talks about how we often don't connect the thinking brain to the survival brain, which creates a sense of dis-ease within our mind-body system. And I say a sense of dis-ease because some people do experience the sense of dis-ease that turns into disease and disorder, and other times it's just like a deeper disconnection and it feels like a sense of disease. Whatever word you want to choose, it's yours for choosing, okay? But not creating a connection and integration between the survival brain, the emotional brain, and the thinking brain creates a lot of tension within the body. And I want to support us with this so that we don't make the mistake of blaming people for why we are who we are, or why we do what we do, or why we have what we have, or why we don't have what we have. Okay, so got some notes here because I'm gonna try to do this in 10 minutes, okay? Because I know you don't have a lot of time. And this is a tip I want to offer you. When your survival brain is sensing that there is a loss, I want you to observe your survival brain. You cannot observe your survival brain when you are in the fight. Do not fight for let me say this. Do not try to observe yourself while you're fighting. You can't do that. You're in the moment. You can't, even while you're frozen, you can't really observe yourself, right? But if you take a moment to pause and step outside of that, you can experience some different opportunities for yourself that will change your trajectory in this relationship with this person. Now, will you get the exact outcome that you want? No, not guaranteeing that, but you will be a different person as you arrive at that outcome. Now, that's very good news, okay? So, you're watching your survival brain. Your survival brain is always scanning the environment to find out if you're safe or not, okay? That's the primary question. Am I safe? You don't want to abandon the survival brain because God gave you your survival brain. Why? Because the Most High is the ancient of ancients. Yes, our ancient home gave you this part of your brain to help you survive when our ancestors were on the savannah and they had to, communicate with the animals and determine what direction they were going to go. They had to scan the environment. They had to act quickly. And the reason why we have the survival brain is so that we don't have to take so long to think about what we need to do. It's going to kick in automatically. Now, as you observe your survival brain, I want you to pay attention to what it's sensing. Don't mind, I have a dog in the background, don't mind him. I want you to pay attention to what it's sensing, what it's smelling, what it's tasting, what it's hearing, what it's feeling, what it's seeing. Okay? The survival brain hears, feels, smells, tastes. It even touches in a certain way that's going to be different from a relaxed mind, right? So I want you to observe that this is very, very powerful. Don't abandon the survival brain to skip to the thinking part of your brain, because if you do that, you're going to outsmart yourself. And quite frankly, none of us are that smart. Okay? We need to pause so we can integrate, and then we can tap into the deeper knowledge. Okay? Now, take that in for a moment. Don't abandon your survival brain, because it's kicking in, and the thinking brain's going to say you're losing. You're losing. It's going to interpret. It's going to label that. So there's a situation, there's the response, and the interpretation would be right where my forehead is. Okay? And so you want to pause that for a moment. We're not going to label anything from an intellectual perspective yet. We're going to observe. Then you ask, okay, is this true? Do I have updated information? When you're in that relationship that you are grieving, and the person does something again that aggravates you, pay attention to what you feel. Pay attention to what's happening in your body. Is your heart beat? Do you feel it? Is it slowing down? Is it accelerating? Are you starting to sweat? Starting to feel a little tension, right? Are you monotone when you speak, or can your voice modulate? Okay, because we have this vagal nerve that travels from the back all the way down through our throats, down the midline, and it is connected to our main organs: the heart, the lungs, the gut, the stomach, down to our colon. Okay, the science of safety, polyvagal theory. It's very fascinating. Look at that. This is not my own research. I just read the research and share it with you, and it informs my practice. So you have all this going on. The survival brain, observe it. What do I feel when I'm around this person? Okay? And then, before you label it, ask yourself, is that true? Is that still true? Now, because your body is feeling something in the moment doesn't mean that it's interpreting what's currently happening. This is really important. Okay, I thought I would do this in 10 minutes, and I can't do it in 10 minutes. I'm going to try to do it in 15 minutes. Just because your body is interpreting it's sensing something that's happening, it may not be the present moment. Your body could be recreating what it always feels in the last 5 years of being with this person, in the last 14 years of observing this child. This is very important, okay? You see my eyes? It's very important, because just because the body is feeling a tension doesn't mean that it's a new tension. It could be an old tension showing up on the same day, every day, okay? Same time, every day, when you're with that person. But what do we do? Okay, you turn the page. Okay, you bring in the Most High, okay? Do not lean on your own understanding. In all your ways, acknowledge Him, and He will direct your paths. Acknowledge this is hard for you. Acknowledge your emotions. Acknowledge that you are trying. Don't do this with the person. Don't try to bring them in before you do this with yourself. Okay? Acknowledge the emotions. Acknowledge the sense of loss that you're feeling. Acknowledge the grief. This is painful. I try to communicate with this person and they never hear what I have to say. I feel like I have to prove my need to be respected. I have to prove my worth to this person. I know. Not just from the research, but from firsthand experience. This is very difficult, okay? Especially when you're doing this most of your life and you don't even know you're grieving a relationship. Hear me? Yes? So you bring this to the Most High in prayer, okay? And you name what you're feeling. You're honest about what you're feeling. When we talk about the truth of our experience, it's not the truth that is above every experience in the world. It's about the honesty, the sincere and honest evaluation of what you experience. That is not the truth that surpasses all truths in the world. That is your sincere and honest assessment of your experience, okay? And then, here's the sentence frame. Here's the sentence frame. After you've named your emotions, after you've poured out your heart, after you've gotten out of your brain, your survival brain, your thinking brain, and now you just let the tears fall, you breathe it out. Here's the sentence frame. I feel whatever the emotion because I interpret that this relationship is whatever you interpret it to be. This is really powerful because, again, we're not making that person responsible for how we feel, what we do, what we say, how we act, who we are. We are simply, see, now we're at a higher place. And if you join my class, I'm going to talk about this. We're at a higher place. We can have a different perspective when we're in that higher place. And we don't make that person responsible for what we feel, because when we make people responsible for what we feel, we make things worse. And we say, I feel whatever the emotion because I interpret that the relationship is whatever you say to be. Now, if you bring this to the person's attention, of course, you want to set that up in a peaceful way. If you need a mediator, then so be it. Okay? But you bring this to that person and it creates a different bridge if they are willing. I do not suggest that you do all this work, what I've laid out as a format for you, and then you bring it to someone who doesn't want to hear what you have to say because it's going to feel like another round of pain and rejection, and you'll be in another grieving process. And we don't need to do that, okay? We got to move forward. This sentence frame is for you. Even if you look in the mirror and you say to yourself, I feel blank because I interpret that the relationship is blank, you have acknowledged the truth of your experience to yourself. And now you can operate in a different mindset. You can operate with a different skill set, and you can take a different set of actions. Let me know what you think. This is a heavy topic, and it can be a multiple hour-long course, but we tried to do it in 15 minutes. Let me know what you think. And I pray that if you use these steps, you are blessed with every spiritual blessing in the heavenly realm. Thank you for hearing my insight on this topic, and I'll see you again in the next video.